Foreigner is going to be at the Adler Theatre Tuesday, March 10th. It's going to be a phenomenal show, and I've got Kelly Hansen on the line. How are you, Kelly?
I'm good. We're going to be there soon.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome show, man. So I've got a bunch of questions for you here.
I got a bunch of answers for you.
That's fantastic. That works out well. So far, so good. Foreigner has such a rich catalog. How do you guys put a show together? How do you make a set list? How does that work for you guys?
You know, it's a problem, but it's a very good problem to have because usually we have to figure out what very well-known song we're going to have to leave out of the show. Many times we'll play and there's a curfew or there's a time limit or whatever, and you sometimes you have to fit in a very small window of time. And also, in different regions of the world, different songs have different popularity than they do here. So we alter the set somewhat for when we go to different places like Europe, for example.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. And, of course, we here at 97X have been playing Foreigner since, pretty much day one. So we've got everybody listening here is a huge...
You used to listen on your dinosaur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what about that? We are a classic rock station. What is your relationship with classic rock? Do you have a favorite album or a favorite band?
I think maybe because I'm a musician, a favorites thing is really not my world. Mm-hmm. I like to listen and appreciate things on their own merits. One day I might be in the mood for something really rocking. Another day I might be in the mood for something more R&B or a ballad. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with our catalog. I don't have a favorite Foreigner song.
Yeah.
It all depends on the night and whether it's indoors or outdoors, a big place, small place. How's the crowd that night? How well do we hear ourselves? All those things come into play to figure out what you preferred that particular night.
Mm-hmm. And being the singer, man, you singers are a different animal. You've especially out on tour. How do you keep do you have like a daily regimen to keep your vocals? Because the drummer, the guitarist, they can go out and booze it up and smoke it up and whatever. You kind of got to be a saint out there.
Well, you really nailed that one on the head. And as you put on a year or two, you have to think even more about that. And mm-hmm. I kind of have this running joke in with the band and everybody that I know is that every year it seems like I have to give up something else to maintain my same level, and so it's like a weird New Year's resolution that I have to do.
Right.
But yeah, I have to. I don't stay out late carousing, telling long-winded rock stories over booze till the wee hours.
Uh-huh.
And I try to get to bed early. I try to get enough sleep. I have to eat early in the day. I have to be careful about what I eat. I can't do spicy stuff. I can't eat too close to the show. All kinds of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a diva, but my voice is.
There you go. Your daily routine probably looks a little bit different now than it did back in the hurricane days, yeah?
And, and partly because I really hadn't, when you're that young, you don't have to think about that as much. And also, I wasn't as experienced to know that I had to think about that stuff as much. But I did avoid drugs, and I never did cocaine or anything like that because I always was afraid that it would hurt my voice. So
sure.
in a way, it kept me away from doing that kind of stuff.
So let's go back to the hurricane days. You guys put out 4 albums, and then along came grunge. And I read an interview, and I'd like you to, if you can kind of expound on this a little bit. I think there's a really great lesson there of how you took that and, basically everything was kind of handed to you back then, and you took it and you turned it on its head, and you kind of went at it like, well, okay, well, here we go. Now I've got to break it down. I've got to be the one making my bones. And
well, even before that, and I don't want to blame grunge, but every musical vibe has a cycle, and it goes in for a while, then it goes out for a while, and at the end of the 80s, early 90s, the whole hard rock metal thing was dead, and I knew that as a guy with the kind of voice that I had, which was more of a clean, tenory kind of voice, that wasn't going to really do very well in the era was like a lot of gravelly voice, singers and stuff like that. And so I decided that I realized I was going to have to take a break, which sometimes musicians and or actors or artists have to do if like, for example, you're an actor and you have a huge iconic role. It's hard for you to get any other work after that because you're typecast. So you have to take a break. And I worked on my producing skills and my songwriting skills, my artist development skills and my engineering skills. And I took time off just to say, okay, I'm going to have to sit this out until I'm allowed back in again, because when metal was over, no one wanted to hear me sing. They go, oh, that's that metal singer.
Right.
And I wouldn't even get a chance to do stuff. So it took quite a while. And then I got to this point many years later where I was doing all that, and I was working harder and harder and getting less and less return. And I stopped one day and I said, oh, you know what? I need to go back to what I do best, which is lead singing. And I think enough time had passed. And I said, I'm not going to say no to anything until I can't say yes anymore. Mm-hmm. And I took a whole different approach, because I just didn't feel I was being treated seriously anymore as a vocalist. So I had to really be proactive and go out and find my own stuff. And so I went on the internet and I read about this charity gig that Mick Jones, the leader and founder of Foreigner, was doing in Santa Barbara. And I made some calls, and I found out that they were kind of trying to think about reforming the band, or re-energizing, revitalizing the band. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of serendipitous that I discovered that and was able to go and play with the guys when they came to L.A. And the next day I was rehearsing, and I was in Foreigner, and it just took off. That was 15 years ago.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that story, and just the ability to kind of be humble and grow everything else in your tool belt, and it just makes you a better performer.
I felt that I was technically a good singer in Hurricane, but I felt I lacked emotion. I didn't feel I was giving of myself and my feelings and my heart. So I worked on becoming a more emotive person too, and that was something I had to develop, because with the way I was brought up, it just wasn't part of my makeup.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story, Kelly. Can't wait to see you at the Adler Theatre Tuesday. It's going to be a phenomenal show. Any secrets or surprises you can tell us about?
One thing I hear a lot that people go to the show, and when they leave, they go, oh, I didn't know Foreigner did that one. Oh, I didn't know Foreigner did that one. Oh, I didn't know Foreigner did that one. And that's the thing about a lot of classic rock bands, is people in their minds kind of start to meld them together, and they think, they were all done by one or another band. And so I think that'll be a cool thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Well, thank you very much, Kelly, for your time, and we look forward to seeing you at the Adler.